to a show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. And it's me, Dante. You know that. I just keep telling y'all anyway, just in case you forget, or if you're new here. But either way, we're here. So for this episode, I want to welcome back a guest. It's been a while. So I definitely, am excited to catch up and just have him back on. So welcome back to the show. This is the creator and promoter and CEO and operator and runner of the Arte Suave Elite Jiu-Jitsu promotion. So, Fredo, what's up, my friend? Welcome back, and how have you been doing?
What's up, man? Been staying pretty busy, as you know. We've been
Mm-hmm.
pretty consistent with one event every month. Um, that's definitely been keeping me busy, along with some stuff in my, whatever I've got going on in my personal life. Um, but yeah, no, we're still going strong, uh, getting bigger, uh, and yeah, it's been a wild ride. Past what, 3.5 years? Or yeah, 3.5 years.
Uh,
A little over
yeah.
3.5 years. Almost four. In January it'll be four.
Oh wow. Yeah, like I was talking to someone the other day about it, and I kept saying, like, I was like, yeah, I think they've been running about 2.5, 3 years. So yeah, I'm off by a year, but
Yeah.
that's awesome though to be, consistent and being able to keep that up one per month. So, good for you guys over there.
Yeah, yeah. My goal this year was to do one every single month, and not miss a month, but we're gonna miss the mark in December. We're not having an event in December. I was really shooting for it. I couldn't find a venue in
Mm.
really any spot. So kind of decided, like, we'll just take a rest in December, let the team kind of rest, and then we're gonna hit the floor running in Vegas,
Huh?
January.
There's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, December, just mark it off as holiday time, let people catch up, get a recovery with family and whatnot. So it kind of timed out a little bit, it looks like anyway. So
Yeah,
it still works.
yeah, yeah. Historically, we've done a couple, I think, two events in December. Before last year, we did one in Phoenix. That one went pretty good, based on the fact that, like, the week after was Nogi Worlds. That's always the biggest challenge, is that Nogi Worlds falls on in December, and then you get a lot of competitors. They're like, they either don't want to travel because they're going to be traveling for Nogi Worlds, or they just don't want to risk the injury. So they're usually a little bit lighter cards, and not as many people show up. And then the one before that was not Walnut Creek, but Pleasant Hill. Yeah, it was in Pleasant Hill. Um, and that one was pretty good. And that one was our one and only Sunday card. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, couldn't couldn't schedule it for a Saturday, and I wanted to do an event in December, and it worked out. That event went pretty well as well.
Well, good. Like, how far out in advance do you normally have to, you know, set up the event or book the event? So, to get the venue and everything and get, your bracket set up.
So I like to have the events booked out at least 4 months in advance, um, just because I like to have it locked in. There's catch 22s with that. So we've been having the unfortunate luck of scheduling when something else is going on, some other jiu-jitsu competition, and for the most part, it's been Jiu-Jitsu World Week. So we're doing
Mm.
our next event in San Diego, October 12th. And Jiu-Jitsu World League is doing an event in San Diego, October 12th. Um, then we're coming back to Sacramento, and Jiu-Jitsu World League is doing a tournament in Stockton, which is about 40 minutes away from Sacramento, November 2nd. So,
Of course.
um, and there's been other times as well this year that we've landed on the same date as Jiu-Jitsu World League, and we've done fine. Our events are after they're done, anyways. But still, it definitely, I think it affects attendance slightly, but um, I think a lot of people like our shows to a point where they'll still do it. Um, we had one time that we did it, or it was earlier this year in San Jose. It was the same day as an IBJJF Open in Sacramento, and we had people that competed at the Sac Open drove all the way to San Jose after competing in the Open and competed on Arte Suave. So that was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, this speaks volumes though about the product that you have, because if people are willing to, IBJJF is just that. It is what it is. And they say, hey, we definitely want to do this, but we also really, really like, the Arte Suave Elite event and just how it's operated, so much so that they're willing to go there and then drive all the way out and say, we still want to get involved. So that's super cool, man.
yeah. It's been this year's been awesome. It's been growing. More people have been hearing about Arte Suave. For the most part, like in California, most people do know about Arte Suave, but we're really trying to like get even more people where like certain schools that maybe just for whatever reason haven't heard, like filling in the cracks that we haven't, you know, um, gone into, or teams that just really just focus on like the well-known like Jiu-Jitsu World League or IBJJF, and they just maybe don't have as much communication with other schools where they heard about Arte Suave. It happens. So, or maybe they heard about it and then maybe they just don't sign up. So, um, yeah, we're trying to fill in those gaps. I had one particular school. We had one of their guys compete on this last Arte Suave, and their coach came up to me during the event. They're like, "Yeah, our guys here absolutely love this event, and we want to. When's your next one?" And so they're gonna have their guys sign up, and this is a team that would only do like fight to win, and it just took them, to get in the door, have one person to compete, and then now everybody else on the team wants to compete on the show. So that's the ultimate goal is, once we get one person from a team to compete, others will follow after they show up to the events, because my my main thing for the events is making them as fun as possible. um jiu-jitsu is not a very I would say corporate sport, like other, let's say it's starting to step into the professional uh,
Yeah.
arena of sports. Um, but even in the professional arena, it's just not the vibe of jujitsu is not that. It's usually much more laid back. It's got a different vibe to it. And so I try to stay true to jujitsu in that sense. Um, and where it's like this should be fun. It should be laid back. It shouldn't be super uptight. And that's what makes the events fun. And it's always super fun to hear um, people would just compliment the show just because, you know, uh, creating something like this, it's just the joy of hearing that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's something you created, and for someone to have anything good to say about it, and again that wants to make it a point to compete in it, and that's always a great feeling. And watching the event from this weekend, that's one thing that I took as I'm watching. It's like, dude, they're having fun. This just looks like a fun atmosphere. It's I had a guest on a couple weeks back. We were talking about ADCC and CJI and the vibe there. And one of the things he was saying, because he had gone to both events, and he was saying one felt like just like a jiu-jitsu tournament, where it just felt like you're having fun, but it still felt very tense, and the other was very loose and just a fun atmosphere. And watching Arte Suave over the weekend, that's what I saw. It was just like, it never felt like a tense situation. You see the grapplers on the mats, you know, they're out there to win for sure, but it wasn't this like end of the world vibe where it's like, if I don't do this, I've shamed my school, or I've shamed my family. People out there, win or lose, they're good sportsmanship going on, and it's just such a nice vibe to see. Just even like looking at it through the TV screen, I feel like, oh man, I feel like I'm there. This feels good. So
Yeah.
y'all have an effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's been like I said, the number one goal is just to I I enjoy it. I like to have fun at the events. We tried something else for this event. So this event itself was called the Rewind event, and the whole main purpose was to have certain matches, rematches, pretty much. And
Mhm.
so we encouraged people to respectfully to call others out that whether you beat them or lost to them for a rematch. So we had a decent amount of people do call outs, and that was fun. There was a couple, like I did one. Unfortunately, my guy, he ended up taking a job on the East Coast, and he had to leave like a day after Master World. So me and him couldn't run it back. So that was unfortunate. But I even did a call out, which was pretty fun. Um, uh, there was a match, Matthias Heredia versus Kirk. Um, they competed a while back on Arte Suave at the blue belt. We call it the BMF, which is just open weight. So we pick, we try to pick various weights, um, the toughest guys at various weights, and just throw them in there in a tournament and see who wins. You know, weight doesn't
Sure.
matter if you're, bad motherfucker. So
I ain't
uh
scared.
yeah, so they competed against each other, and it was a really good match. It was back and forth. Matthias is probably 170 pounds soaking wet, and Kirk is probably about 208. And it was fun. It was a very, very fun back and forth. So Kirk had beat Matthias then, and then Matthias this go around beat Kirk. And what made it more fun is that it was in the gi, right? And
Hmm.
Matthias just recently got his purple belt. And so when when this happened, I had talked to them. I'm like, you guys still want to make this happen? We try not to do the mix of different colored belts,
Sure.
um, just because uh, people just don't like it. Like some competitors,
Yeah.
they just don't. Obviously, you know, you don't you don't want to be the higher belt losing to the lower belt, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, but both of them are down. So, it happened. And then this go around, Matthias won. So, and then we had another one where it was a purple belt and a brown belt because she had just gotten promoted maybe within the week of having this match. And she was still down to
Mhm.
compete. So that was cool. But um, kind of back on topic, we had these call out videos, and it was super fun. A lot of the local competitors, they understood the assignment, and they did it and had fun with it. And that's what I'm trying to foster in in the area, and I think people are getting it because it's been, again, it's turning more into a sport, right? The jiu-jitsu, rather than, it still holds the martial arts aspect, but it's I think you need to have fun with everything that you do. Like if
Oh yeah.
most of us are doing jujitsu, we want to have fun. So might as well make it a little bit fun. And I think you can call somebody out and still be respectful and make it fun. You know, when I did my call out, that's how I did it. Um, and then I've got a guy, student of mine at the gym that I'm at Moreno Brothers. He made the most outlandish video. I'll send it to you afterwards. Um, Promoting his match. So he hasn't been training a very long time. He's been training a year and a half, but this guy's adapted to jujitsu so well. And he's also super hard worker. He's training like 3 times a day, 6 days a week. Like he's putting in the work. But he made the most outlandish video, which kind of went viral in the sense of the Northern California jiu-jitsu community. Um, and people loved it. It was I'll send it to you. It was great.
Awesome.
And he was having fun with it. He got a videographer to record this and had fun. And even so in the video he had like a fur coat on, and he brought that fur coat. So after he won, he put on the fur coat, and you know he won by submission, so he got interviewed. So that's the thing about our shows. If you win by submission, you get interviewed. Um,
Sure.
and it was very fun. His post fight interview was fun, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Like for Arte Suave, it's just have fun. It's what I think helps keep uh, the community tight, and it just makes the atmosphere great. So uh, I'm glad I'm seeing that. And if people are listening that are doing Arte Suave, please continue to do these videos. It's not just for this event. If you want to call somebody out, call somebody out. Do it respectfully, but um, I'm hoping to change the scene in California in general, or West Coast in general. And I think we've already done that with Arte Suave. A lot of things have changed in this area with jujitsu. Um, yeah. So I don't want to ramble on with the stuff, but yeah, it's that's the goal. So I want to
Oh
see
yeah.
people have more fun.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. It's important. Anything that you got to have fun with it, because you take yourself too serious. It just you know even if it's just on yourself, it's like, okay, you're taking it too serious. But the folks around you, you know, the people participating is along with you. You got to have in entertainment. You look at movies. There's always someone to lighten the mood, and that sets kind of a zone for the folks around them. And I think when you have an event like this, when you have someone like yourself, that that's kind of the object, is to just keep it fun, keep it loose, and just have a good time. It reminds people, that's what we're here for in general. Like, we're here for a good time. And I feel like for myself, with the idea of competing, that slips out of my mind. The fun aspect of it's always very serious. Like at our gym, it's very serious. And the folks there at my gym, they have fun, they have a good time. But it's like when you see them competing and getting in the zone, it's like, oh man. Like, I remember being at a competition with a couple teammates, and they got their headphones on, they're getting in the zone, and I didn't realize they had like little earbuds in. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there trying to crack jokes, and I realized, like, oh shit, like, they got earbuds in, they ain't hear none of the things I had to say. And honestly, they weren't in that zone, they weren't in that mood for the funny. They're like, look, I got to get locked in on this opponent, I got to get out there and do my thing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to be in your zone, you want to be able to go out there and perform your best. But also too, it's like, go out there and remember, it's not the end of the world if you go out there. And I sweat a lot, and I know I'm going to slip in my own sweat. It happens a lot. And when it happens, I laugh, even though I'm getting choked. I'm just like, you didn't beat me, I beat me. It was my sweat. If my sweat wasn't there, that it would have taken you longer to get to that choke. but just got to have fun with things and just remind everyone around you as well. And I think you all are doing a great job with that. Like in California, for sure, you're making an impact. And even out here, in Maryland, I talk about Arte Suave, and it's not as big of an impact as over there. But I got friends, I got teammates that are like, dude, we should go. Like, we should go there. Like, like we got to go there. Like, we got to go compete. I'm like, hey, man, like, I want to do this as well. Trust me, I want to go. Like, but money is a factor. So, we're like,
Yeah.
trust me, let me get my funds up, and we will make the move. One of my teammates specifically, uh, like every so often, we send a lot of just goofy memes to each other. We just talk about like just the world. And then every, let's say, 20 to 30 DMs, hey man, so we got to get together and plan this Arte Suave trip. It's like, dude, I know. I know. Actually, I told him that you were going to be on today, and I wanted him to come on and be on the episode as well, but he's off on a fishing trip. So he was like, "Nah, maybe I could cancel it." I was like, "Dude, go fishing, like enjoy your time, dude. Relax. Like we'll get back to this. Like it's not like hey Fredo, like let's go ahead and do an episode." And you're like, "All right, that's it, never again." But I'm gonna come out to do an Arte Suave. I'm never gonna talk to you again. Trust me. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're known over here too. The event is known over here, and I like to think that as you continue to grow, you know, it gets on that level of like, California, your West Coast, and you start hitting the South with Texas and Louisiana and Arizona and stuff like that, and you start hitting, popularity, in Middle America, Colorado's got a, cool jiu-jitsu scene going on out there, out to like Michigan, catching the ears out there. Because it'd be cool, folks just, when folks travel to something that's really special. It means something because that means, they took time, out of their lives to say, I want to come out here and do your events. For
Yeah.
some of us, it includes saying, hey, I got to take time off from work, or I got to take time away from my family. But, it's important to come out here and do this event because, again, what I see is a fun vibe, a fun atmosphere. As I'm watching the matches yesterday, all I kept thinking was like, man, I don't know if I would be that scared to like go out there and get my ass kicked. I think it'd be kind of fun, like
Yeah.
listening to the commentators. It was like, they're having a good time. I was like, holy shit, this is fun. This is good. So,
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that. So I want to touch a couple subjects, and I'll start off with the commentators. The commentators are some old training partners of mine because I recently switched gyms. But I'm still, friends with them. And it's funny because like they know that I'm not very, I don't know what the word what words to use, but I'm called Mr. Unprofessional for a reason. And they almost, and I'm gonna say almost, have free reign to like say whatever they want almost. Um, and that's what I mean. They're having fun, they're joking, they're saying things like I know when I compete, they're letting loose, like they're making fun of me, they're saying there's times where they've crossed the line with certain things, and we've talked about it and like, hey, we can't say certain things. But for the most part, like I want to give them freedom to have fun as well as like people that are working the event because it's not
Mhm.
also just about it's the whole environment. It's everybody that's there. Like whether they're working the event or spectators or competitors. It's it's a whole machine, right? With multiple different gears and everybody has to have fun. So if they're not having fun, if I like put handcuffs on them and I say, "Hey, you guys need to remain 100% professional." And I have a very big thing against like being like too professional because obviously we're professional to an extent. But it's like I feel like I want you to be you, right? Whoever's working the event or whoever's there, I want you to be you, but also be respectful. Um, there's a certain power and freedom like that where it allows you to have fun. So I love it. I love listening to their commentary. I'll go back and listen to certain things that they say, and I'll have a chuckle, and I'm like, "Oh gosh." And it's funny too because they'll say like, "Oh, Fredo's gonna get mad at us." And I'm like, well, maybe, maybe not. Don't say anything like crazy, but have fun." Um,
Yeah.
and then another point I wanted to touch on is that we actually do have a like mid to long term strategy for Arte Suave. So um, we have a plan to spread throughout the United States. Now it's just kind of implementing it, and hopefully the start of that will start next year sometime. Um, so you might see us in the Midwest, Northwest. Um, I don't know when you'll see us on the East Coast, but at least the
Yeah.
the Midwest is much closer than California for you guys. And again, the goal will always be to for every Arte Suave to carry the same look, same vibe wherever we're at. So um, if we hold it somewhere closer to you guys, then yeah, it's gonna hold the same vibe,
Good.
which I hold really close to my heart. Like the vibe of the events is something that I love.
Good. I mean, it's the identity of it. It's not just like the logo. We know, and you know the people behind the scenes. Just the good nature of everybody. But again, that vibe is a big part of the identity. The professionalism to its level. It's like the professionalism or lack thereof, whichever or you want to put it at, it's still part of that identity where it's like, look, you got to be professional, but you still want to have fun with it. That's all part of that identity. So it'd be weird if like y'all came out, you know, out Midwest and it didn't carry that same vibe. You're like,
Yeah.
damn, is it because y'all in Chicago? Is that why? I mean, I know they got guns, but you still laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking on that, like I forgot to hit on this is like I feel like man, if we act a different way to just be professional or to carry some certain type of perception, it's such a facade. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I it doesn't sit well in my stomach. Like I have to do that at my job because obviously I'm an employee, and they're telling me to like, hey, this is how you should be conducting yourself. Um, and I and again, like I said, I think everything carries a balance, you know.
Sure.
And so I'd much rather have somebody be themselves than to try to, you know, a certain way just because you shouldn't be like that as a, let's say, since we were talking about commentators, as a commentator you shouldn't, you shouldn't be making fun of that person. Well, what if they know them and they're that comfortable? Then it's, it might be a little, a little funny. I think people need to loosen up a bit in
Yeah,
life.
for sure.
So that's again, that's the vibe that um we carry. And um and you said about traveling. Um, we had a female competitor. Her name is Chelsea DiCaprio, and
Mhm.
you mentioned Chicago. She's from Chicago. She flew in the first time she competed on Arte Suave, and I don't know. I should have asked her. I'll probably message her. Like, what? How did you hear about it? Because Chicago is pretty far away. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're talking about three time zones away, and she flew to San Luis Obispo when we had an event in San Luis Obispo, California, which is a very small town, college town, but it's a great coastal city, and she competed there, and then she was supposed to rematch the girl that she fought in San Luis Obispo in Sacramento. But long story short, I had a conversation with her. She's like, "Yeah, I compete on super fights all the time. I travel." uh, she like apparently she likes to travel. She travels to a bunch of different cities and does super fights because there's a ton of these throughout the country. She's like, I've done a ton, and by far, Arte Suave is the best in the country. Like, and I'm like, oh, great, that's great to hear.
Yeah,
Especially for local competitors, because I know like there's WNO, there's these other larger ones for more so for the professionals. Um, and we still have professional main events and sometimes other matches, are considered professional um, at the professional level. Um, but we definitely cater more to, the local competitors
sure.
and making an experience for them. And then, we'll sprinkle in some of the professionals in there as well. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There's thinking about the jiu-jitsu scene in Chicago. I think they have a pretty decent scene out there too. So, you know, it would make sense that they've heard of, heard some rumblings at least. I think about when I communicate with folks in different areas, it's like, okay, it seems to be, quite a few gyms, you all interact. So, you like to think in some kind of social media aspect, they're active as well. And, I could see, you know, a lot of folks kind of catching wind of you through social media. Um, I actually need to, you know, figure out my algorithm again because once in a while I'll see a post for Arte Suave events, but it doesn't. It used to be like just like every other post. I'm like, okay, this is good. I'm in the know. And then there's just a point where like maybe once a month I'll see something. I'm like, okay, that's what I mean. Maybe they're slowing down. I don't know. And you know, dumb me. I don't think like go click. Click on the post. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Like there's one match. Weird. All right, keep moving on with your life. But
yeah,
just looking at you know the planned growth of the event and organization, everything. It's like taking your time with it and you know making sure as you grow and take your time with it, you still keep that identity. So good.
yeah, that's something I'm holding very dear to my heart is keeping the identity of the show, which again, another part of the identity of the show is the donations that we do. We're still doing that. Like this last one, we were collecting coats for a local organization that it's called B916. They help the local community here in Sacramento. So they're collecting coats for people who don't have clothing for the winter. Um, so that is another thing that I always hold very dear and won't let go of is helping out the local area. So if we're in Sacramento, we're going to help out a Sacramento organization. If we're in the Bay Area in California, we're going to help out a Bay Area organization. If we're in San Diego, we're going to be helping out a San Diego organization. So that's something that I want to continue to hold at least, myself and what I have power over. That's gonna continue. That's been one thing from the start.
That's also something I think is key to that identity. I remember when this all started, and that was a big thing. That was always something that stood out to me. Is um like the nonprofit groups that you're in contact with and sponsors and whatnot. And I always thought that was really cool because when you talk about the bigger events like ADCC specifically, I know there's a lot of talk about the pay and okay, all this money is coming in, but where's the money going and stuff like that. And my brain is always fixated on this ideal of people being greedy and I hate to make it sound that way because it's like if you do something you do want to be compensated for what you're doing, But I think there is a level though too of, how far, how much. And when you have an event where you're donating and you're helping out, charities in the area, I just feel like like you look at something like that and you can't, you can't fault it. You can't look at it like, ugh, this Arte Suave guy over here helping out people, giving them clothes. What a loser. It's like anyone that thinks that way is like, oh my God, like what is wrong with you? Whereas like if anyone else hears about that, it's like, dude, that's amazing. That in itself is great. And then again, you factor in the event and it's like, oh, and you guys are having fun. It's like good grief. Like is there nothing you guys can't do? So and one thing I did want to kind of touch back to the commentating, like, as I was listening to one of the matches. Like I can't remember the names, but one guy came out without his shirt and everything. He like looked like he had all the muscles, and then the other guy had on his shirt, and they're bigger fellas, and the commentators just. Was like, oh, just kind of ribbing on the guy with the shirt, and you get this feeling of like, oh, they know each other, you know,
Yeah.
like,
So, uh, I believe I know who you're talking about. That was most likely, it was Anthony and a guy named Cristiano.
yes.
Um, yeah. So they do know Anthony. Anthony works the events, and that's another thing that we do is a lot of us, we take matches when needed.
Mhm.
Um, and so Anthony took a match, and the commentators very much well know Anthony, and they will use any opportunity to roast him. And we
I
do
can
that
see.
all to each other, all to each other. You should see behind the scenes how bad we all roast each other while we travel, while whatever it is, we get on each other a lot, and it's very fun. And it again, like I said, it you see it in the commentary, and that's fine because it's normal. It's what we do. Like
Mhm.
we don't want to like change how we act just because people are watching. It's like I just it's not that makes me uneasy when like there's a shift like that. And I don't know if that's something that's wrong or of me to feel like, but it really does make me feel uneasy when like there's a shift in or a change in like how things are done or a portrayal of yourself.
Sure.
um it just I don't like it, so that's why I try not to have it as
Oh
much
yeah.
in in the arte suave at least.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's you're being your true self. You're being your truest form, and the second someone steps out of that, it's like, well, who are you really?
Right.
It's like if you could switch it on that quick over here, like which one is it? Who are you? Whereas if someone is themselves all the time, it's like, oh, okay. Like that's the weird thing about podcasting. It's like I have three different podcasts, and they're all so dramatically different from each other, but the common thing is me. So the vibe is kind of always the same: laid back, have fun, crack jokes. Some points, like with the horror podcast, we have to actually redo episodes because we cut loose too much. We forget to talk about the actual movie that we're supposed to be talking about. It's like, oh shit, we were talking about okay. Usually it's my wife that's on those episodes. I'm like, hey, can we record that again tomorrow? Like we had too much fun. Like I always keep those original recordings though, because there is actually like good content there. It's just that we were just a little too fun loving. So there is kind of a point to like staying yourself, but also remembering the task at hand. I got to get better at balancing that. But
Right.
uh,
It's a
you know,
boundary, right? You're just
oh
setting a
yeah,
boundary. Yeah. Yeah.
for
And
sure.
that's I'm again, I think that's ultimately that's how I feel about the events as well. I am like this in my regular life with my kids, with just everything in my regular life. I feel like, and I'm gonna say this in the best way that I can, I allow a lot of fuckery to happen. Just because, I believe a lot in freedom. But I also am very clear with boundaries as well. Like, for example, with my kids, my kids know the boundaries, but they understand
Hmm.
that they do get a lot of freedom. So it's like, okay, I trust you to make the right choices. Um, and I feel the same way with Arte Suave. Whoever has their job, I feel like they should have the creative freedom to be themselves, whether, you know, um, but like I stated before, there are boundaries, that we don't want to, you know, um, if somebody starts getting, let's just say somebody starts getting political, like actual political, like on commentary, it's like, all right, come on, man, like this is jujitsu. Let's keep it to jujitsu. Like, there's
Yeah.
obvious certain boundaries, and
Hmm.
I think everybody knows that works the event. There are a little bit, there are some newer people helping out with the events. Um, but the people that have been helping out for a while, they know that I have zero issues with telling them like, hey, let's not do that. Like, or just setting certain boundaries. Like, yeah, I'm not on a personal level, and even Arte Suave. I have no problem telling people how it is. Um,
Well, yeah.
but
That's always an important thing to have in your pocket, because sometimes folks can think like, oh, well, they're such a nice guy, I can just kind of do what I want, say what I want. They're so nice. They're not gonna say anything. It's like, but the second you let them know, it's like, well, no, I am nice, but I will also remind you to, stay in your lane,
yeah,
because you can still do that in a nice way. And a lot of times folks are just like, oh, okay, cool, that was pretty sweet of him. Like,
yeah.
he's still nice, and I don't, feel like I've been scolded.
Yeah, yeah. And also too, I also like to see how far people will take things as well. Like, no joke. That's another part of freedom that I like. It's like, okay, you have this freedom. How far are you willing to take this? And I'll sit back, and a lot of times I'll sit back and watch, like, all right, let's just see, you know, if you will abuse, like, I guess maybe
Hmm.
abuse isn't the right word, but like, um, what will you do with the freedom, right? Because I won't say much unless it's completely, again, like I said, out of pocket. And I'm like, all right. And that's when I
Yeah.
usually say, so, but I also, on the other hand, like I said, curious. It's like a more of a curious, like, I think it reveals a lot about a person, um, where you see what they do with that freedom. And this is the same thing with like either competitors or whatever, whoever you're dealing with on, whether this is Arte Suave or outside of Arte Suave. I'd like to see like, what are you gonna do? And it just
Wait,
reveals a lot about the person.
there's a, a trust level to having, just having everyone helping behind the scenes. Like, again, with the commentators, it's like, okay, I trust you to go out here and do this, and that goes a long way. And for anyone to understand how trust works, is like, well, look, there's a line. You see where the line is. You can toe the line, but don't go over the line. And
Yeah,
most people should, for the most part, have a pretty fair understanding of what that is, because, like you said, getting political, that starts to cross to a weird line,
yeah,
because everyone and everything is so divisive these days. So it's like, what? Let's just steer away from it. But you'll sometimes have folks that, let's go ahead and, push the envelope. And it's like, okay. But that
yeah,
doesn't always necessarily mean that, the person, is out to be malicious. So, sometimes you slip into that arena, but just knowing like, okay, I know I messed up. I don't need, especially also there's a trust factor to seeing somebody mess up and see if they can steer themselves out of that mess up like cleanly, without leaving any carnage behind. Because sometimes you might say something and it's like, ooh, how do you back out of this? Or sometimes you say something goofy and, all right, let's move on to a new topic, and you leave it
yeah,
behind. But that's always a trust thing, because sometimes folks, like you say, you don't want to restrict anybody, but sometimes people are like, look, I know this person, so I'm gonna let them know right now, right out the gate, don't say this, or that specifically, but do the rest of you. Like have the rest of your fun. Just stay off these boundaries. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a fine line.
yeah. It is. And that kind of reminds, like, all this kind of boils back as well to like, um, how I kind of saw my dad deal with like business dealings. Um, and I love my dad to death. He's a great man. Um, but I saw how he would handle certain business dealings in the sense of like, he was somewhat of a micromanager whenever he had somebody do something. And on top of that, he was super big. And this is maybe the Latin American culture, or yeah, Latin American culture of like negotiating, right? Negotiate the best price that you can get.
Yes.
But not only would he negotiate the best price that he could get, but he would also micromanage and like be super nitpicky. And so I noticed that, and I would observe like whether they were like a mechanic or whoever it was. And obviously they're like, you're like cutting away pay from them. And on top of that, you're like being super, so they'd be very upset or not do as good of a job, whatever it is. So I'm like, these are just things that I kind of carry with, myself. So that kind of bleeds over into like the art, how why I run Arte Suave the way that I do, and my
Sure.
philosophy on that, is, for example, we have a videographer. He's great. I freaking love Jason. Jason's his name. Legacy Studios. Um, he I remember when we first started working together, I flat out told him, I said, I want you to have free reign on how you do things. I'm not going to tell you, just give me the product. I'll look at it. And if something needs to be adjusted, like maybe spelling or whatever it is, font, I'll let you know. Other than the creative portion, you're in charge of that. Like that's 100% on you. And when it came to like the money, I was just like, hey, if we were to do this and this and this, how much would you like to get paid? And I, excuse me, rarely negotiate down. I, you know, if somebody feels like they're worth a certain amount, then that's what I'm going to be paying you, because for the most part,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll maybe ask for something small, but not really big. But if they could work with that, and I'm like, try to make it as fair as possible. And I can promise you, you can speak to a bunch of people that have done work, whether it's videography or photography. Um, if whatever they ask, I'm like, all right, sure, do it. We'll do it for that. If not, if I don't like the price, I'm like, okay, well, no, I'm not doing it. Like, and I'm not going to offend you by offering you less than what you feel you're worth. We all know our worth.
Sure.
We all have assign a worth to ourselves, and I don't want to offend people. And this is all can base back on how I saw my dad deal with business dealings. And I just, if I pay someone what they feel they're worth, then they're going to give me a good product. Now, if I see you starting getting lazy, and you're getting paid what you feel you're worth, and you're giving me a lazy product, now we have an issue. Now I'm going to be nitpicky. I'm like, yeah, no, we're that's not gonna slide, because it's like, we had this discussion, we had an
Hmm.
agreement. You're gonna have to hold up your end of the agreement, or we're just no longer gonna do business. And so, um, that's that's a very big thing for me, is that. So, um,
Yeah.
I think people should be responsible and, hold up their end of the deal. And if not, then we'll just go on our separate ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's very important, though. Like, the big thing there too is like, if somebody feels they're worth this, I think it's important that, when you're trying to talk somebody down, you're trying to bring them down off their price. You're basically saying to them, is like, you're not, I don't believe in your worth. You're worth less than whatever. So, the way that you kind of handle it, I think that's perfect. I think that's beautiful actually, because it's like, people know they can come to you, and just speaking from, seeing, the first few events, you see the level of the production increase and increase and increase, and then seeing the most recent product, and it's like, oh, this is sharp. You guys got this. Like,
Yeah. Thank you, man.
it just looks so good. It felt like, as I'm watching, it was just like everything was like in place. Everything was perfect. There was like nothing that, felt like, oh, the camera's too far away, or, oh, they're too close. It was like everything looked good there. I mean, the event itself, like I said, just it's a great event. And, I'm hoping more folks start catching sight of it, and really, giving you guys your flowers.
Yeah, yeah. We definitely thank you. Yeah, I definitely want to push Arte Suave to the next level. Um, next step for me, uh, that I think we have for the show is to get a little bit bigger name sponsors. That's, I think, one of the things that we're waiting for is a bigger name sponsor to help, you know, um, push us to the next spot. We get a ton of people in attendance. Again, whether there's other jujitsu going on at the same time or not, we fill our shows. So it's like, I don't know who's listening to this, but if you want to sponsor our event, uh, we're definitely the event to do it. We get a lot of people, and it's not just, again, I know we don't have a bunch of professionals do the events, but we get a lot of local competitors, and we have a fan base, and we have a very loyal fan base. Like, if we
Hmm.
support a brand, they're supporting the brand because they support Arte Suave. We have an extremely loyal fan base. So that's why we want to, hopefully try and take this to the next level and get a little bit, more sponsors for next year. That's in the goals for next year.
Yeah, I could definitely see, how that's a big priority, a big goal, and I could see it going well, because, again, you guys have a great product. And, again, looking at the event and just seeing people there, you look at a tournament, you look at any of these other events, a lot of folks are there as competitors. you know you do have some spectators, but, a lot of the crowd is just everybody that's going to be competing. Meanwhile, when I'm looking at your event, I see a lot of spectators. you know
Yeah.
yes, there are competitors, but it looked like there are like more spectators there to see the event, and take in the atmosphere. So, that speaks volumes. And I mean, hopefully, I don't know who listens to this, but yeah, Fredo, Fredo's calling y'all out. Come on, help y'all. Um,
Yeah, reach out to us.
well, and, that's something too, like you said, is like, you don't necessarily have professionals there, but you kind of cater to the local competitor. I think there's something to be said about stuff like that, because I think of this podcast that way as well. It's like, I have friends tell me, like, hey, I can get, this fighter and that fighter on here, these huge names. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's cool and all, but, what I really want to do is I want to reach out to the folks who don't normally get heard.
Yeah.
I want to reach out to the folks who, have something to say, but, they're not getting, the platform to say it on. I'm not saying I have the biggest platform, but it's a start. And that carries. I'm not sure what's going on. I was looking at my numbers the other day. Something weird's going on. Like, I got like 240 like downloads from China the other day. I'm concerned. That made me feel a little like, what the fuck y'all doing? And then I got 267 from California, and I was like, and, it's like, sure, over like a week or two, maybe a month, I could see those numbers, but this was one day. It was like, okay, somebody's fucking
Interesting.
around with me. Like, yeah. I'm being punked right
Interesting.
now.
Hey,
Um,
man, reaching out to or giving love to the people that don't give love. Now that you mention that, like I respect that a lot. And that ties back into like one of the goals for Arte Suave, and with people having fun, like just making these videos to hype up their matches. And both me and this happens in the community. They're like, and this is, I'm considered an upper belt, so this comes from a lot of the upper belts usually that compete as well. Like, oh, shut up, blue belt, or
mhm.
you're just a blue belt. And it's like, I guess that holds some weight because of the lack of experience in jujitsu, but I don't like that per se because it's like, no, let them have fun. Like that's what this is about. Let them have fun. Like this is they're enjoying the sport. It's help growing the sport. And it's getting I've had so many people come up to me and say, "Hey, my kids want to do jujitsu now because they've seen this show." And I'm like, gosh, how cool is that? That somebody told me their kids want to do jujitsu because they saw this and they saw other kids do jujitsu, or they saw or let's say, even like, since I spoke about blue belts, they saw a blue belt and they're like, oh, wow, if you're doing this, I could do this too. Like, let me start training jujitsu. Like that's such a cool thing to hear. So that's again, I just want to have fun, and I just want people to have fun, and I just want the local competitors to have fun. Like I want
Mhm.
people to do this. It's very entertainment. That's what this is. It's entertainment.
Yeah, that's like I said. I think that's the most important thing of it. Is just having fun. If you can't have fun, like what are you doing then? Why are you here? Why are you doing anything if you're not going to enjoy it? And maybe there are some folks who they enjoy not having fun. I don't know those folks, but you
Right.
know, I'm not one of those folks. But the thing is, it's like when you can, look at a situation and find the humor in it. You know, when you can look at a situation and say, "Look, man, you get like we just had a family reunion up in Detroit last week, and it was a 2-day event, which is wild. We have a big family, but come on, man, relax. 2 days, chill, like relax." But the Friday night dinner went very, very well, and that was awesome. I wasn't able to make it because I'm traveling from Maryland, and I didn't get in until after midnight. So, my nuclear family did not make that part. But the next day, we were set to have a picnic, and the scheduling got a little weird because I was wondering, like, why are we starting at 11 a.m.? That's odd. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna still show up, you know. And I get there, and my cousin who was organizing everything, she's sitting there by herself. And like, where's everybody? And she's like, I haven't heard from anyone. So let's start making phone calls and texting around, trying to find out where everybody is. And everyone's in routes. Um, and my cousin and I, she's bummed out. And I says to her, I was like, well, look, here's the thing. This situation right here sucks. And it was cold. It was supposed to be 80 degrees. And we had, I guess they had rain over the previous 2 days, and it knocked the temperatures down to the like 50s. So it sucked. It was cold as balls out there. And I says to my cousin, I was like, well, look, man, this sucks. This absolutely sucks. And it's cold. And we're next to the Detroit River. This is not a good time. But the thing is, just put on a happy face, and we're gonna rock this. If only 5 of us show up, fuck it. This it's us five. We're gonna make it a good time. My daughter's out there. They had like some lawn games, like little tic tac toe games. My daughter's just like, she's excited. She's like, let's play tic tac toe. You know, there's a playground. All this stuff. And then eventually, family members start showing up, and they showed up and saw us. The few of us sitting there smiling and having a good time, and that carried over. Folks came in, they saw a good time going down, so they came in. All right, we're going to jump right into this good time. And I think that's contagious. If people
Yeah.
look at the jiu-jitsu community and see we're having fun and see that, like I have a friend, I want him to try, but I think he sees like just these random things. and he gets intimidated and think, oh, they just want to beat you up, and people just want to be rude. It's like, you're looking at the wrong videos, dude. Like, come to my gym. We have a good time. Like, look at the videos that I record of my rolls. I'm like, yes, I'm getting my ass kicked, but we're laughing about it. We're having fun with it, and it's just, that's the thing. Is like, if you show people that you're having a good time, you show them that it's okay to let down that guard, and you know you're gonna find the fun. So I don't know. Keep smiling, y'all.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. Like, that's I like to have fun a lot. Like, obviously, a lot of my close friends know this. I'm always trying to make, for the most part, I'm trying to make the most of the situations that I'm in and try to have as much fun as I can. Obviously, if I'm in a good mood. If I'm in a bad mood, I'm probably not. But um, I definitely, and that seeps over into the Arte Suaves a ton. So
Yeah.
it's such a big thing for me. So I'm excited for San Diego. And that's another thing too. So it's like a lot of people that help us out with the Arte Suaves, and we're getting again, like I said, with some newer people helping, and we're going down to San Diego. And San Diego is such a great place to hang out, find stuff to do, and whenever we travel like this, we go out. So it's gonna it's definitely gonna be fun. We're gonna go out and have some fun, and sometimes we don't even sleep after the events. We go out, don't sleep, and then go to the airport, or some of the people go back to the Airbnb, sleep till it's time for checkout, and then they leave, and then we go back to Sacramento area. Um, yeah, but we got some really dope plans for next year. We just recently, not very long, we just used it for this event. We bought a fairly big box truck. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, just under the size of needing a commercial license. So it's pretty big. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, the plans are definitely in the works to next year, in the plans of getting a pit built, like CJI, a pit.
So I mentioned that to someone when I was talking about your event. I was
Yeah.
like, after seeing, I was like, dude, I could see Arte Suave adopting this, and making this part of the thing. So that's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And so we plan on having like one or two, like probably just one mega event for local competitors, just like a CJI type event, as those are for professionals. We may
Hmm.
have like a professional main card, but we want to have like a semi-professional undercard with like a bunch of like local competitor like killers in the pit. We already have a couple spots that would be able to host this event. Um, and we're looking to like really get the local, got to get the marketing right for it. But
Sure.
we want to get people to show up and just have fun. A lot of the local people that support, let's say, that local community, and then other people to come watch the professionals as well. A little bit of half and half, and then have the pit as well. I'm so obsessed with that. Like that, I when I first saw Craig fight at Karate Combat in the pit, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is legit. Like, I would love to do that. I just don't have the ability to do that right now. And we've been taking the steps to do it, and we're fairly poised to go into that direction. And I think next year we can do it. So,
Dude, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I'm super excited.
Dude, I'm excited. Because I legit, I want to say episode 226, maybe. We were just talking about like CJI, and all the happenings to it. And I brought up Arte Suave and mentioned the pit, and I was like, I could see this being, something they do, just being one of those local tournaments, and, adopting this ideal that this would be nice to like kind of grow with. So I'm excited to see that, when it does happen. Um,
Yeah.
I did want to ask one question. As I was thinking about this as I was watching, um, the matches yesterday, and it got me to thinking, because jiu-jitsu was taking this evolution at one point, in combat jiu-jitsu started kind of cropping up. Has that been a consideration at any point to incorporate combat jiu-jitsu at some point down the line? And maybe not a full event, but like, a match here or there.
Um, I've looked into it. So here's the key thing, because I want to do things the right way
Hmm.
if we're gonna do stuff like that. And I've seen, I will leave them nameless. I've seen other organizations do combat jujitsu, and technically, you have to have the athletic commission involved
Ah,
in that. Technically,
okay.
even with slaps, open palm slaps, you have to, in California, if you do research, California, Nevada, and probably other states. Because I looked at doing it in Nevada as well, because Reno is not very far. I was like, oh, we'll just do it in Nevada. Nevada is a lot more lenient, which they are. But no, it's do you still have to kind of jump through some hoops, especially just for jujitsu, like combat
Hmm.
jujitsu. It doesn't seem to be worth it per se. So, with all that being said, there is a small loophole. So, okay, so let me take a couple steps back. So in the state of California, you have to get blood work done, you have to get cleared by a doctor, all this stuff to
Ah,
get into something like that. Anything combat sports, like physical, like punches, and in this case slaps, you have to have that. But if you go onto an Indian reservation, you don't
of
need
course.
that. So, which is why a lot of MMA promotions, the smaller ones, they do them on MMA reservations, or excuse
Hmm.
me, Indian reservations. And so what they'll do is when people pull out, they'll pull people from the crowd to fight. Again, I won't mention certain, the names of the organizations that do that, but they'll do that. If somebody doesn't make weight or whatever happens, they'll pull somebody from the crowd to fight. You'll have some freaking, 40-year-old dad fight an MMA fighter,
Jeez.
for money, and for probably I don't know how much, but that'll happen. But long story short, jujitsu is obviously not that, and combat jujitsu is not that. So I have thought about doing it on a uh, Indian reservation. I just haven't really fully been, I guess, have the fire lit under my butt, just because I was last year was one project for Arte Suave, which halfway failed. Um, I
Hmm.
was trying to have our own server with our own streaming and all that,
Ah,
and it kind of halfway failed. We kept about half of the stuff. We have like fighter profiles and all these things for the fighters that make stuff easier for us, and it we that's the part that we kept. So this year's been a more so different project, which was we're kind of just, again, like I said, poisoning ourselves for this one event, one or two major events every year, most likely just one. Also Kratos. Kratos is the wrestling version of Arte Suave. It's, we'll do freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman, and folk style wrestling. So we've been working on that. Um,
good.
and again, like I said, the pit is going to be, and then it also expanding both Kratos and Arte Suave, um, throughout the country. Obviously, Kratos is very much in its infantile stage,
Sure,
um,
sure.
and maybe hopefully soon getting into the toddler stage here. Um, and hopefully that one can has much more potential than I think personally than Arte Suave, just because there's a big void in the wrestling community for this.
Oh yeah, very true. Very true. I was thinking about that as we were talking. I was like, want to ask, how that was coming along, as well, because, last time we talked, I think you maybe had two events, possibly one or two events that already under your belt for that. So I was like, okay, expanding and making moves. So glad to hear that that's still, rolling and growing.
Yeah, it's again, like I said, still infant stage. We've had four Kratos events. I think four. I'd have to check. I'm pretty sure we've had four, three or four. But it's a little bit more difficult because there's seasons in wrestling, and
Hmm.
so a lot of the students that are doing wrestling, um, obviously won't do Kratos if there are wrestling seasons, and there's other tournaments that will place them and things like that. But um, I think we're next year we're gonna definitely grow Kratos to the sense of like I feel like it'll get to the point where Kratos is probably just as important as some of those others. I think it'll get to that point. I don't know if next year will be it, but I hope it is next year. But I want to make it so it's like, oh, um, Kratos will affect, you know, my wrestling career and what I do next.
Good.
Um,
All right.
yeah,
Well, with all of that being what it is, dude, I, I'm happy to see, the growth and success that you all are carrying right now, and even the things that didn't quite hit for you, you're still you still try. You're not going to
yeah,
grow if you don't try. You're not going to improve if you don't take risk. I mean, we say that in jiu-jitsu. You go to training, you're going to have to do some risky stuff on the mats that you may, some moves that you're like, I'm not sure. Well, you won't go try it and then start drilling it. So I mean, you're kind of in that stage with those things. So good. um and if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. Repost, story post, whatever it is, you know, I'm more than happy to, to help out where I can, because, that's one of the things is like, I believe in, your product. I
thank you,
believe in
man.
your mission. I believe in, what you all are doing. So, you always want to support that, because, if y'all were doing something wild, like, you know, just like taser jiu-jitsu, which I just saw a video on that the other day. Um, like, I don't know if I would necessarily be like, hey man, I want to support that. It's
Yeah,
I wouldn't discourage you. I would just be like, hey, that's um
interesting.
yeah. Like, hey, so can you do a repost? Nah, I'm full for the day, dude. Like, sorry. Like, what about tomorrow? Yeah, I'm not posting tomorrow. like like any excuse not to.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever I can do, if there's anything I can do, let me know, and I'm more than happy to, if I can't do it, I'll find someone that can. Like, I got you covered, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely. And actually, let me go ahead and ask this on air, because I know if I don't, my teammate will probably crucify me for it. And I know we've talked about this before in the past, potentially coming out and getting involved. Like, how far out in advance would we need to let you know, if we want to do an event with you all? Like, do myself or my teammate? I don't know. I do want to do it, but I'm still a little nervous. But watching yesterday's event, I was like, dude, I feel good about that. That looks so much fun. Like,
Yeah,
I'm okay if
yeah.
I get like Peruvian necktied, in front of everybody. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you want to get on the card right now, you would have to apply at least 2 months before the event.
Okay. It's not hateful.
That's we're trying to actually allow full full fight camps for people so they can get prepped like an actual like fight,
Sure.
obviously jiu-jitsu match, but we're trying to give people prep time. And so 2 months is when you would want to apply. Like right now, I've got majority of 2025, like the first half of 2025 booked, all the way up until July of next year, except for 1 month. I don't have May. I don't
Mm,
know where May's gonna be at just yet. um, so that's not completely booked. But if you go to the website, we've got applications all the way up until February 15th or I don't know, yeah, February 15th of 2025. I think it's the 14th or 15th, I can't remember. Um, but yeah, we you could apply all the way up until then. And I've got March. Oh, no, I don't have those booked. I just have yeah, actually sorry. I have the spot, but I just didn't officially book, but they'll let us book
okay.
after that. But I do have June and July already booked, like deposit paid, everything. Um, though, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So
All right.
we got stuff planned out way in advance, as much as we can. And again, like I said, 2 months would be the best because that's when we start matchmaking about 2 months before the event. So if there's any event that you want to look at, shoot. Again, like I said, you can go all the way till February at this point.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll definitely reach out and try to sort something. First, we got to sort out on this side. I think he's ready. If I told him, hey, you can go out tomorrow, he'd probably hop a flight and be like, okay, I'm in. Um, like I'm not as prepared. So, but it's something we definitely want to look into coming out and doing because well, he saw Carlos Cruz uh, won the BJJ Wiki belt, and he was like, "I want to win the Arte Suave belt." I was like, "Well, dude, like we have to talk to Fredo. We have to sort that. I don't think there's like you just walk in and like you look at the wall and say, "Hey, so I want that belt. Can I compete for
Yeah,
that one over there?" So
yeah, yeah,
that's his big push. So I was like, "Look, we will figure something out. We'll sort it out. We'll talk with him,
yeah,
and I also need to talk with my family because I can't just hop up and go across the country." you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
the kid will
That
be
definitely
asking questions.
takes some time. Actually, so fun fact. November 2nd, we're gonna be back in Sacramento. Um, and the main event is gonna be a local black belt here that is really good. It was one of my coaches, Manny Moreno, versus Jameel Hill Taylor.
Oh,
Yeah, which is, very
nice.
local to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like within our gym local.
Oh,
So,
oh, you train at Lloyd Irving?
so we are under them. Like
Okay.
our coaches branched off in '88 became
Oh, I didn't
like a
know
lot of the
that.
competitors when they go up and win, they still throw up the TLI logo. Uh, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
well,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah, he's coming to Sacramento. He was supposed to come to Sacramento in March of this year, but he had gotten hurt against his fight against Zach
Hmm.
Paina.
Yeah.
And so he had to pull out. And I just recently talked to him maybe a couple weeks ago, and he's just like, "Yeah, I should be cleared up by November." And I I had a flight credit for him already, so I'm like, "Let's go. I'll rebook the flight and book his hotel." And so yeah, he's coming November 2nd. So that might be a
Oh,
good time to
nice.
come. If again
Hop in the
if you
luggage.
can. Yeah, yeah.
But actually, my teammate and I had, as we were talking, I did say November. This was like a couple months. I was like, let's shoot for maybe November. Like, let's just look at November. But
There you go.
I don't know that that's necessarily on the books. But all the same, that's super cool. And whether we're there or not, I'll definitely be tuning in for that event for sure. Um, and yeah, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up here, my friend. Fredo, it's great talking with you again, man. It's been a while, so I'm glad to have you back on, and you'll just catch up. So um, good. Before we get out of here, you got any shout outs or mentions you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Um, yeah, follow us on Instagram, Arte Suave Elite. Um, in the link in the bio, you can create a fighter profile without signing up for an event. So if you're listening to this, you don't have to apply to an event. Just go to our website, create a fighter profile. That way we have you in our system. Um, and you never know. Like we may reach out to you. There's times where we'll reach out to people and we're like, we will pay your flight and your stay if you come and compete for the show. It doesn't happen all the time. Um, it's will most likely more than not we have to offer it. If you ask us for it and you applied, it's probably not going to happen. So,
Hey man, what's up? Can you get me? Can you cover my flight? Like what?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
get out of
yeah,
here.
yeah. So, but if we ask you and there could be a possibility that we might, pay for your flight. Not always, but or we can work with you one way or another because again, we just want to put on good matches. So again, go to our Instagram, Arte Suave Elite. Follow us. That's a big thing. And then two, create a fighter profile and tell your friends, whoever. Like that's another big thing is we want to try and have a really big database of competitors. So create a fighter profile, and you might just be called to one of our events. So that's a
Awesome.
big thing.
Oh yeah, that's actually a big deal. So I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes for everybody, and
Yeah,
and get some names on there. So
yeah,
yeah, y'all tell a friend to tell a friend.
yeah, exactly.
All right, and for the listeners, as always, thank you. If y'all have any questions, concerns, criticisms, do feel free to reach out. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats Podcast, also on Instagram. You can email me. I've gotten some emails recently and I've had some guests through email on recently. So like I say, I always think it's somebody trying to scam me for money. I ain't even got no money, but they be trying. So, but every so often there's an email that comes through and says, "Hey, here's what I have. This is what I want to talk about," and they get on. So if you want to reach out to me via email, do that. It's offthemats2020 at gmail.com. I keep saying reach out to me on email, but I don't think I ever leave my email. So yeah, go do that. Uh, I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio. Bobby, Chris, Joe, Marilyn Phil, Ricky Ticky, Chucky O, Raul, everybody over there. We love you guys. If it wasn't for Nerd Rage Radio, I would not be doing the podcast. So thanks to those guys. If you like the podcast, thank those guys too. Go give them a follow. Nerd Rage Radio IG. Maybe. I don't know if they're still running it, but I run the Facebook. So go over there on Facebook and follow it too if y'all still have that. And if you don't like the podcast, blame Nerd Rage Radio. It's their fault. Also, I want to give a shout out to my other podcast. So, you like horror? If you like scary movies, go check it out. Upcoming this Friday, we're going to continue with the Cursed Films theme. We're going to be talking about Poltergeist because that's a huge, huge cursed film in the horror community. Not just horror community, but just in film in general. So we're going to be addressing that episode and talking about the curse and all that went on behind the scenes and what have you. So go check that out. So you like horror, all the words separated by underscores on Instagram. So, and you can find a podcast on Spotify or something like that. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out here to my good friend Fredo and Arte Suave Elite. Thank you very much for making the time because you're a busy dude, man. And you making time to do this for me, sitting for an hour. I appreciate it. So thank you so much. And like I said, if there's anything I could do to help, let me know. I got you covered.
I definitely appreciate that, man.
And as always, we love you guys. Thank you. You know the deal. You guys keep listening. We're definitely going to keep making these shows. Thank you, everybody. And bye.
deep one with it. Now let me sing a song.